A waste of celluloid. Spielberg has lost it. He was once a truly man of vision.
What? Grammar wasn't my best.
Now he gives us this piece of crap. What's worse is that in a long line of crap, Jurassic Park, The Terminal, and AI, the only movie that was all right was Catch Me If You Can. And that was just okay.
Wow. A lot of bold statements there.
My goodness.
Seeing murders in the future, hogwash.
That's too many layers for my little brain to comprehend.
That was a 1-star review from IMDb. Hello and welcome to Spoilers Intended, a podcast about series and films. I'm your host, Andrew, joined as always by Ryan.
I'm getting a vision of later in the podcast when Steven says something stupid during plot.
And Steven.
I have no visions to offer here.
You could say that you have a vision of me saying something dumb and then like...
No. I'm pretty sure the vision Andrew's going to get is me coming across the stage, strangling Ryan. The red ball.
The ball comes down. Oh, no.
If you haven't guessed by, I guess maybe the thumbnail that you're listening to.
Or the name of the episode.
Whatever we're talking about. Yeah. This week we are talking about Minority Report, the 2002 futuristic sci-fi thriller directed by Steven Spielberg.
Yep.
Starring Tom Cruise, Colin Farrell, Samantha Morton, and Max von Sydow.
No relation to Leia Seydoux.
I told you I was going to ruin him with that pronunciation.
He really did.
I got in his head.
I always forget that this is a Spielberg movie. Like, I don't know why I forget
surprising.
about it. It is. Once you watch it, like, this is clearly a Spielberg movie. But, like, for some reason, it's never, like, in my head canon of like all of his
film.
Yeah.
Well, it's also an adaptation from a Philip K. Dick short story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and the short story is quite short. You can read it in like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, that just depends on how fast you read, Andrew.
Well, It's all subjective.
What if I read like one word a minute?
I don't know. Then it would take you a very long time. Maybe 500 minutes.
Oh gosh, it's a squiggly line.
Minority. How do you pronounce that?
You're like, it's like, oh man, I got like 58 seconds more to sit here for this bit. Sorry.
Oh no.
Oh man. All right. So before we talk about Minority Report, this came out in the aughts, and I know we rag on the
awkward aughts.
We rag on the aughts quite a bit, and a lot of it is generally because of the use of CGI. That is, unfortunately, whenever, like during the aughts, a lot of this technology was new. Filmmakers wanted to use it, and a lot of it just didn't age very well.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to the aughts and look at
long ago.
Some other films that came out within that time period, the decade. So 2002, basically 2010.
Yeah.
Of movies that had CGI in it that just did not age well. Like you go back and like,
the special effects didn't quite hold up.
Yeah, it just didn't really hold up.
Yeah.
So I'm curious.
I want to jump in here right off the gun.
Go for it.
I'm taking the low-hanging fruit because
The Matrix Reloaded.
No, these special effects didn't hold up on the screen in theater. Mm-hmm. The Mummy Returns.
Oh yeah, those are
2001. We get an absolute PlayStation 1 Scorpion
The Scorpion King was the one. Like,
woof.
The sand face was bad enough, but like,
you can let it
I thought that was fine.
Like
it was
like
fine.
1999's The Mummy. It was campy and it was fun. And
Yeah.
when the CGI is kind of bad, you kind of let it pass.
You do.
And like 2001, they try to take themselves a little more seriously. And then we have The Rock as the Scorpion King as really just a plastic mannequin.
There's so many
legs.
scenes where they use CG PlayStation 1 Rock instead of just like
The Rock.
Like it's a shot that I'm like, it was from the waist up. You could have just shot him.
It could just be him.
Yeah, like you didn't have to
chair.
CG this part. Like, yeah.
Yeah, so that is my candidate for this because woof.
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
There is no redeem. That's almost just worth like commentary levels of. I kind of want to hear Ryan's reaction.
There's so many other worse, better movies that we could watch.
But it does make you wonder with that movie specifically if like the producers were like, we got to kick it up a notch. We got to raise the bar on CG's all the rage. We got to do
kids
it.
Love the CG.
Yeah. You know what else they love? This Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson guy from WWE.
Formerly the WWF.
Get him in here, make him a
WWF
Scorpion.
at the time.
I think it still was, yeah.
All right, Ryan.
Yeah.
What about you?
I mean, I'm gonna go with 2003's The Hulk from Ang Lee. Or
that's a
Hulk,
good
rather.
choice.
Just Hulk.
Just Hulk.
Eric Bana played Bruce Banner in this one, and specifically, there's 2 scenes in this one that just really like.
Was the San
Was this the one with like the big bubble at the end?
Yeah, cloud / bubble / question mark at the end.
It just exists.
Just mess at the end. That's the one thing is like what an anticlimactic weird ending of just like, ugh, what is this CG? But specifically the 2 giant dogs that come after the Hulk right in the middle of the movie. Like I remember seeing this and being like, oh, this looks terrible because they're kind of like
it's almost like Resident Evil.
They're like hyena-esque, but like it was shot at night, quote unquote, to like I guess hide some of the CG,
which is a good choice.
But then they made the dogs like this like I don't know grayish green, like I don't know, they just look terrible. And I remember like in the theater being like, oh, that's bad. And then like
no,
are you watching it?
No.
Oh, okay.
Like you pull the photo.
You look down and went, oh no, yeah, it's bad. Like there's a lot of moments with the Hulk that are like fine. Like that I'll say that about the movie. The CG with the Hulk is like okay for a lot of it. It's not fantastic.
Oh, woof. Okay, I pulled up an image of these.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Show Andrew. Yeah.
No, hold on. I got it. Just
Yeah.
continue talking.
Anyways, the CG with the actual Hulk a lot of the time is actually decent. Like it works. It holds up in a lot of spaces. But like it's definitely early aughts, But like it was that scene with the dogs, and then at the end with like just the cloud of whatever becomes the bad guy.
Oh, that's against the Hulk dogs, I guess is the yeah. Ooh, yeah. That's not.
Yeah, no, it's not great.
That's not really good.
Boy, they look terrible.
They're horrible.
Man.
And even for the time, again, they looked bad. But like now, if you look at it, whoa. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one that always, when I think of like bad CG, Scorpion King obviously pops to mind, like specifically from Mummy 2.
Yeah.
But then, I always think of the Hulk dogs is what I call them, the Hulk dogs.
So, so mine is one of a movie that I actually really want us to review, unironically.
Right.
That I've mentioned a couple times just in passing, not on the cast, but I chose Van Helsing.
Oh gosh, I forgot about the ending CG of that movie.
Oh no.
2004. Van Helsing. If you're unfamiliar with this movie, this was Hugh Jackman, Kate Beckinsale.
Kate Beckinsale.
And
Kate
basically
Beckinsale in that movie with those curls. Oh my goodness.
He puts the hat on her in the rain.
Swoon.
So this movie is one of those kind of like really weird guilty pleasure films where it's not good.
No.
It is not a good film at all.
No.
It's fun though.
But there is a lot of fun in it. However, there is particularly the werewolf.
Oh, the werewolf is terrible.
The werewolf CGI is so absurdly bad.
Yeah.
I mean, even some of the vampire flying stuff can be kind of rough.
It's not great.
Okay, but there's a lot of like POV shots with it where it's
they do like the first person view kind of thing, and you don't see it very much.
But the werewolf in this looks like it's a
bad.
PS2 werewolf.
Oh, no, that's a PS1 werewolf.
That's an insult to PS2 graphics.
It's so bad. Like if you go and just look up like
what's
Van
bad
Helsing,
is like I just started to look it up on YouTube. The words Van Helsing, the first thing that pops up is Van Helsing werewolf, not Van Helsing trailer, not Van Helsing movie. Not Van Helsing, huge jacked
That's
man.
Because Google is listening to us.
Van Helsing werewolf.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, one of the big redeeming factors about this film, not the CGI, is the soundtrack was done by Alan Silvestri, and he dominates it. It's so good.
It's a good soundtrack.
Yeah. But unfortunately, the film just kind of like went off into obscurity. I know that they really wanted to turn this into its own
they
like
wanted
franchise,
like a cinematic universe kind of thing. Before that was
before it was a thing,
a catchphrase. Yeah.
I remember being so hyped for this movie.
I was too. I saw it in theaters.
Saw it in theaters
I
in
did
college.
Too.
Yeah.
I remember leaving, going like,
I don't know about that.
Okay.
Another movie that also had terrible CGI as a runner-up was League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Also true.
Same thing. I went into that one excited, like, all right, let's go. Came out.
One too.
I don't know about that.
Ooh, I made Sean Connery quit acting.
It did. It actually did. Like he retired after that film. He's like, I'm done.
I'll
never
be my
again.
trailer forever.
But yeah, okay. So let me swap my tabs here. I should have gone not
prepared.
last.
Swippy swipe the tabs.
Not prepared, Andrew.
Okay,
Give us a plot summary.
Yes. Well, hold on.
Okay, I'll hold.
Also not prepared, man. I tell you.
Yeah, well, so
hard to find good
it's
help
because
these days.
I went last. That's my problem.
Oh, that was your choice. You were correct. You told us to
Okay,
go.
based on the story by famed science fiction writer Philip K. Dick, Minority Report is an action detective thriller set in Washington, D.C. in 2054, where police utilize a psychic technology to arrest and convict murderers before they commit their crime. Tom Cruise plays the head of this pre-crime unit and is himself accused of future murder of a man he hasn't even met yet. And that pretty much sums it up right there.
Yeah, let's give us some basic info.
Yes. So this came out in 2002.
Yep.
And it had a budget of $102 million, which is
pricey.
pretty expensive for 2002.
It is, yeah.
So it's reasonable enough, though.
Yeah.
Spielberg, Cruise.
It
It's
had
around like a summer blockbuster budget. I think,
Yeah.
at the time. Yeah.
It had a domestic opening weekend of $35 million, a domestic total run of $132 million,
Okay.
and a worldwide run of $358 million. So it did make its money back.
It didn't make a ton of money.
It didn't make a
though,
ton
no.
of money.
Yeah.
I think probably because it's a little weird.
Well, it's not.
It
It's
is.
the kind of plot that's not going to translate well to other languages necessarily.
Yeah.
It's a little too convoluted for a good translation probably to go through.
I think so too, because like the plot is pretty complex for like maybe like foreign audiences in
could
certain
be.
aspects.
Well, just, I mean, that's not to say that foreign audiences aren't smart.
No,
that,
no.
like,
It's
It's just going to get lost in translation.
It's yeah,
Yeah.
It's the translation is going to be hard to quantify sometimes. Yeah.
And there's very specific words that.
But still, as well as Mission Impossible 2 did,
It
you
is
would think
surprising.
that,
Yeah,
like,
Tom Cruise is just a
Tom
bankable
Cruise
star.
well, Tom Cruise mixed with Steven Spielberg mixed with science fiction, which was a fairly popular
Kind of
you know,
wheelhouse
in
thing.
those early movies. You know?
so they did this, and then 3 years later they did War of the Worlds
Right.
together, and that one was a bang out success box office wise.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
I didn't realize
wasn't
that.
well. It wasn't very critically well received.
No, it wasn't.
But the
people-
movie made a ton of money. That was actually his Tom Cruise's highest grossing film for the longest time.
I wonder why. Like, I wonder if the marketing for this was weird or something.
I think that this is one of I was a little bit too young to remember like the marketing push for it, but it definitely feels like this is a movie that they don't really know how to market.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so War of the Worlds was a $604 million worldwide.
Yeah, it made a ton of money.
Pretty solid for 2005.
Yeah, it made a ton of money.
I mean, almost doubled what this movie made. Which is,
Yeah.
I mean, you would just think that like Philip K. Dick, Steven Spielberg, Tom Cruise,
This is a great combo.
You're going to get like a lot of you know Venn diagram of people that like
that really like knew what they were doing.
yeah.
And so this was actually in development for quite a while. It was like I think it was like 6 or 7 years that they were trying to like kind of make this happen.
Get it off the
A bunch
ground.
of different actors that were kind of in the role of Tom Cruise's Anderton, excuse me.
Yeah.
And ended up kind of landing in this. So I'm curious, what are your guys' thoughts for this?
So
This was Steven's first time seeing
my
this movie.
first time
Oh
seeing
wow.
this film,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was interesting. You know, like I'm always in for a good sci-fi, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't the best.
Okay.
The CGI has definitely dated it.
Oh, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whatever bleach processing they did to the film, where it's just bloom everywhere.
Blooming everywhere.
Terrible idea.
Cinematographer Janusz Kaminski
Bless you.
did a bleach bypass on the film, effectively skipping the bleaching of the silver halide crystals in the film in order to create the desaturated silver tinted colors.
Yeah, just like scan it in and just do it in digital in post, so you can be like, oh, that's bad.
Yeah, and I'm
Yeah.
not entirely sure like if doing that causes the bloom effect that was pretty much throughout the whole film, or if that was a post processing thing that they did. It's hazy.
Well, because the bloom isn't in every shot.
But it
but
could
the
just be-
desaturatedness
yeah.
But like the
is
really high,
Yeah.
the high contrast scenes have just, he'll stand in front of a light, man, and it's just like the whole thing fuzzes out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, woof.
Like
so-
the edges are just gone.
yeah.
This is just one more little tidbit, and I'll save some trivia for later. But
Yeah.
Janusz is a regular cinematographer on Steven Spielberg's films. Whenever Spielberg approached him for this film, he told him to create the ugliest, dirtiest movie either of them had ever made.
And you said, I can do this for you, Steven.
Didn't Spielberg like just do Saving Private Ryan a couple years before this,
which was the ugliest, dirtiest film.
I mean, he's just one-upping himself with uglier, dirtier films.
Yeah.
So what else did you think, Stephen? What your thoughts being a first-time watcher?
I like the sci-fi aspects of it. I think once we get into the kind of the futuristic plot elements, it gets maybe a little weak. It feels like it could tread on itself a little bit too much. The tech, like watching what we thought tech was for the future back in 20 years ago now, which is terrifying feeling. It feels terrible. I hurt
feels
myself.
bad. Take it back.
Self-inflicted wound. That's a red ball right there too. Ooh.
Well, I mean, so there actually is quite a bit.
My psyche says, I don't know, it's the red.
There is a decent amount of technology in this film that at the time, didn't really exist, and it was science fiction. And then by the time a lot of mid 2010s to now, some of this technology actually does exist, just obviously not in the form that it was in the film.
Well, there's a lot of stuff in the film where the MCU was Tony Stark wants that.
Yeah.
Standing in front of a screen, waving your hands and stuff. That's Tony Stark boilerplate stuff, and that's what Tom Cruise is doing, right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting to watch that now and know, this came before, so this is totally whoever was working on early MCU stuff, looking at that, this is what I want. That's what the future feels like, baby. Gloves where you wave your hands,
which do exist.
Oh yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Maybe you can wave your hands in any glove.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean.
Oh, you mean and control a screen. Got it. Yeah, okay. They've had those for years.
Andrew, that tech's been around for at least 400 years. Easy. Come on now.
Oh, man.
But yeah, I mean, it felt. So I think part of what hurts it, right, is, Philip K. Dick is kind of a. I don't want to call him a foundationalist sci-fi writer, but in terms of adaptations, a lot of his work's been adapted, right? I've seen a lot of his stuff, and it's filtered into pop culture stuff a lot.
Right.
So it felt like the storyline and the plot was kind of predictable for me. And it may just be a fault of, hey, if I'd seen this in theater, I'd be like, whoa,
it would have been
mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Whereas now, I've seen this done better on screen or whatever, or in a book format, 5 or 6 times or whatnot.
Just because it's been, essentially 20 years since.
It's been out there lurking, and whether or not other people were inspired by it or just inspired by the initial story.
Or you've picked it up through osmosis, through other, whatever.
It's just out there. This did not have the same. It's kind of like introducing my wife because she had never seen The Matrix, right? So I showed her The Matrix. She's like, "Yeah, I mean, it was fine." And I was just like, "What are you talking about? Everything here is
it created genre,
right? Yeah. Well, but she's so used to bullet time being a thing in movies and like this, so it just goes right past her, right? And so it's the same kind of issue here, not helped by some questionable special effects choices. To go along with it. But I mean, it was entertaining. It held me. It felt like maybe it was a little long. I don't know. Someone else weigh in here. I want to hear some old. Ryan, how many times have you seen this film? You own it. Yeah. Tell us the story about how.
I'll get into that in a minute. I don't know. I haven't seen this movie a ton. I would say maybe 6 times, probably throughout the years.
Yeah,
the first time in theater, and then probably a couple of times, owning it, and then probably a few times just on Netflix or, just seeing it
on TNT or whatever.
But I really like this movie. I really liked it when I saw it in theater. I still like it. I still think it holds up. I think the biggest knock to it for me is just the aging of the special effects, whether it's the CG or the bloom effect, whether that was digital or not, whatever. It was just that look screams early 2000s. It was kind of like when we were watching the first Mission Impossible and they were doing the GUI interfaces on laptops and stuff. It's we don't know what this is going to look like. The internet's weird. I don't know. How about this? It was to me, and this is assuming that the bloom effect was and to be clear, the bloom is when a scene has a lot of bright lights and there's a halo glow effect around any highlight on their face or the sky.
Flare, but it's not a directed light. It's just everywhere.
It felt to me 2002 was the year that After Effects added bloom as an effect, and the editors were like, "Oh baby, we gotta throw this in here, right?"
It's the brand new hotness.
And Steven was
future.
Yeah, Steven Spielberg was I love it, put it in every shot, So to me that was the detractor there. But as far as the plot goes, I really like this movie because for me it's a good example of out of the frying pan into the fire kind of type situations where he's getting out of all these situations. And for me at least, it bounces back and forth between like action that's very like hinged upon like tension of like, are they going to catch him? Is he going to get away? That kind of stuff. And then it bounces back to the mystery of like, who's doing this? What's happening here? You know what I mean?
How is it driven?
Yeah. So for me, the pacing's good. It doesn't feel like that long to me. I obviously remembered, you know, who did it, you know, after watching. So it's like any whodunit movie where like you kind of, if you've seen it and you know the breakdown or whatever, but like I remember the first time I saw it in theaters being clued into what was happening close to the end, but for the longest I assumed it was someone else. I'm trying to be very vague.
Yeah,
in
of course.
But like,
spoilers, we're not there yet.
For me, like the whodunit nature of it is fun. Tom Cruise is great, and then the action, despite some CG here and there, the choreography and the flow of the scenes is still good to me with a lot of them. It's just the execution of the CG makes you go, and kind of lean on some of the.
So I think that there's some. The first half of the film has some really not great action scenes. Okay. But then once you get past kind of like the turn, there are some really good action scenes and some really good pacing that happens at the end.
Yeah,
I would say that's valid. Like the front part
feels cheesy at the first half of the film. Like unintentionally cheesy and kind of silly.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, this really doesn't fit like the actual tone of the movie.
Well, it's like it hasn't found its tone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that was like, so I remember watching this. I don't think I saw it in theaters because I think I was maybe a little bit too young. Well, not really. I mean, it's 2002. I was in high school. I don't know. I don't know if I saw this in theaters or not. But watching it, I remember like, I was like, oh yeah, Minority Report's a great film. I remember like going into this for the rewatch for this because I think I've only seen it maybe once or twice in between. I feel like
you've brought it up for me, like, it's a great film. Yeah, I was like, okay, like, we're expecting something here.
And going into it this time, and after watching it, I think I'm kind of like less enthused about it.
I will say this, like I was definitely higher on this movie coming out of the theater in 2002 than I am now upon rewatching.
So the problem for me, I think, was there's a lot of moments in the film that just kind of happen after a scene cut, and I'm just like, well, how did he get here? Where was the logistics to get through here? Because right now,
I don't see the connections.
Yeah, like there was. It's just like, oh, now we're here. He's over here now.
Right.
And
it definitely feels like our main character kind of just is pinballed around, and it's not that he has a skill or makes a good decision or like is clever. Yeah. It's just he's just here now. Oh, okay. Well, but why? How?
Yeah. So, and like, I'll get into more detail past the spoiler wall because I can actually talk about specifics, but the CGI definitely doesn't help with the case of like, oh, this is a great movie to rewatch whenever. Right. There's a particular scene with kind of like these jetpack policemen that are like chasing him around this alleyway, which just looks terrible.
I still like that scene though.
Oh, it's so bad.
It looks horrible.
I don't care what it looks like. It's a cool idea. Like the idea of the scene, I'm all on. I disagree wholeheartedly with both of you.
Is it though?
I can't believe you don't like that scene. Like the scene itself is so much, like to me at least, is such a cool idea. It's the execution of the CG and some of the wire effects and stuff that kind of go, But for me, like on paper, I could see why they pitched this scene. I'd be like, oh, this is
well. Now I'll definitely say this: like once you get about halfway through the film kind of changes into a different movie.
It does,
and then it ramps up real fast, and the tension is really good. The pacing is fantastic.
Yeah.
And
you really like, especially on the first time viewing it, like unless you're Steven, you're just like, well, I called it in 2 minutes into the movie.
Oh, not that soon, but there was a point where I was like, oh, I'm pretty sure I know where this is going to go. I was like, yep, here we go.
But once you get to that point, you're just like, ooh, man, like it really hits really well.
Yeah.
Especially if you like, I'll say like dystopian sci-fi and those kind of like tropes that show up.
Yeah. And there's some good dystopian sci-fi tropes in this film.
Yes.
I think another thing I like about it, just to be back on the positive train a little bit first, is like
I was being positive.
I know. I want to finish my last positive thought before we get into it. Like,
let me get in here.
I think that like the thing I do like about it, speaking of like not just the dystopian stuff, but like and I don't know how much was in the original Philip K. Dick novel, but a lot of the science fiction ideas brought up are very cool to me. Like, and very relevant to like stuff like stuff that we deal with like tracking our online behavior and our
and ads being directed at you all the time.
There's a lot of things that this movie like deals with that like feel very like there's a lot of ideas brought up that end up actually playing into the plot that aren't just window dressing, I guess, is the way to put it.
Absolutely. And there are some fantastic concepts that unfortunately have been realized in real life.
Right. Some of them have.
Yeah. And
it's a warning, not a roadmap.
Right. Don't you see?
Yeah.
I will say, I do think that a lot of the performances in the film are pretty good.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Like Samantha Morton.
As Agatha?
Yes.
Oh, she does
quite
great.
Good, yes.
She does the whole very distraught writhing on the floor very well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she's a good writher.
Gross.
Max puts up a great performance, I think.
I mean, he always does.
Always does,
He's great. Yeah.
You have Colin Farrell that just
Farrell.
absolutely kills it.
Oh yeah, I mean,
like, he does a very good job at being an FBI agent.
He does.
does,
Like he pulls it off in this movie for sure.
Very believable.
All right, so would you rewatch it? Would you recommend it?
So I upon this rewatch, would have a harder time recommending it than I would have before. Like, because I said I may have watched it 6 times.
Yeah.
All 6 of those were probably 10 years ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's been
a minute.
Break,
it's been a hot minute. And I still enjoy the movie. I still like it. I would still recommend it, but I would recommend it with a big caveat to people.
Of like, this is definitely a product of its time.
Especially now, someone first viewing of it.
Yeah.
I would definitely put that huge. Like, this is a product of its time for sure. And this is not like, it's not like recommending Blade Runner. You know, like another thing.
An instrumental
that created the genre.
In science fiction, cyberpunk. Yeah, like.
Yeah, it's not the same in that regard, but I would definitely rewatch it, but it's probably going to be a while before I do. Because again, it's the problem that a lot of whodunits have of like once you've kind of watched it through, you know who did it.
Yeah,
and you're gonna have something more to offer than just the twist.
Yeah, and like there's
some really interesting like dystopian futuristic concepts in there.
I'm like dancing around spoilers here.
Yeah, it's really tight.
Yes, I would rewatch it, but it's probably going to be a while.
Yeah. Steven?
I mean, I would probably end up rewatching it at some point, just because I like sci-fi.
Yeah.
You know, I like the tropes and the genre. I'd have a hard time recommending this. Like, I really think, one, I feel like I've heard you say in the past, oh, it's a pretty good film. I was like, okay, this is gonna be the overlooked piece of cinema here, right? But like, I feel like if I want to flick something on that's not similar but close enough to this, I might toss on like iRobot before this.
Oh, I don't know about that.
See, I've never seen iRobot, but it looked pretty cheeseball to me.
It is, but it embraces it wholeheartedly.
It does.
In a lot of ways.
That is very true.
I mean, and that's kind of a weird comparison though, because sometimes cheeseball movies are easier to throw on because you don't.
You're not wrong.
Think about it. You can just like play it.
Because this is definitely one of those movies where I don't think you could just like toss it on the screen and like do something else.
No,
because
not
it's
really.
a little bit too involved.
Well, if you don't follow the thread, you're going to be lost.
Assuming that you don't know it.
Yeah. Like
right.
by heart, yeah.
But yeah, and it's not really I mean, there are definitely some moments that are fun in this movie.
But it's not like an action movie.
No, not enough to be like, just throw it on and leave it in the background. Yeah.
Let's watch Tom Cruise tear it up, you know.
Tear it up, Tom.
We have looked into the future and determined the precise type of content you crave, and we've collected it all on Spoilers Intended Podcast.
Actually, I think that's pretty good. Like, I can accept this.
I tell you though, like the thing about it is like paying for these weird tanks and these wet people to give us like the predictions of what people want.
Ryan, we're the wet people.
We're the 3 weirdos in the tank.
Weirdos in the tank.
Flopping around.
Patreon dollars are at work there, but you know.
Also, right, you know, you got to pay for Wally. Right? He's got to have a wage to stick us full of needles.
Oh my gosh.
But yes, if you go to spoilersintendedpodcast.com, you can check out great things like previous episodes. There are also links there to things like Discord, socials, and our Patreon.
And if you want to join us on Discord, we would love it. We have awesome channels of like what games we're playing, what other shows we're watching,
Hobby Corner.
Yeah, like what we're cooking, that kind of stuff. It is an awesome space to just hang out.
Just general talk about, hey, what are you watching right now? What kind of games you playing? I want to see what kind of games people are into.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you're not already, you should be following us on social media. We have a Facebook and an Instagram. We post a lot of fun stuff for there, but we also post what we're going to be watching next week so you can watch along with us.
Ooh, that's a good little bit
done, sir.
Perfectly timed, unintentional.
Completely unintentional there. Yeah. So this movie had a lot of advertisements in it.
Yes.
A ton.
Oh my
of advertisements.
good lord, yes.
So
do we need a spoiler wall, people?
Yeah, we're in the spoiler wall.
We're in the spoiler wall.
We're not in it. We're past.
We're past
beyond.
it. Yeah.
I'm stuck in the wall.
Trapped in the wall. Let me out.
So Nokia is supposed to have spent $2 million to have as many handsets as possible in the film.
Okay, so I'm not gonna lie. That's money not well spent because I don't watch
remember
this. Nokia being in this at all.
I don't even remember a Nokia thing being in the movie. So that's
what
wild.
was it? The Matrix had Motorola, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Was there like little slide down phone?
There's the big logo was center of the screen. Yeah.
But no, that's poor money spent. They're brands that got way better advertising than that.
As a more recognizable brand, Lexus reportedly paid $5 million to have a futuristic version of one of its cars in the film. As part of the deal, Steven Spielberg took delivery of a $62,000 Lexus SC430 convertible for himself.
Oh, so he got
Papa's gotta eat.
Oh, man.
Then other notable advertisers we had, I think it was Baskin Robbins.
Do you think he drove it through set? Like, people you're only supposed to walk in here. Hush! Honk, honk, and he just pulls this Lexus in there.
We had the Gap that was in there.
The Gap got a terrible ad. It's just doxing people. You walk in. Good afternoon, Mr. Dinley. Are you here to buy extra large cotton granny panties again? Can we not?
And then I'm like, absolutely. Are they on sale?
So this had a ton of just random
Guinness
advertisements throughout the film.
Yeah.
It was crazy how much actual targeted advertising was directed at us, the viewer, while
the
Tom
irony
had targeted viewing advertising directed at him. Geez.
So one more little bit of trivia, because there's actually not a ton for this movie that I could find that was I'll say remotely interesting.
Right.
Opening the same weekend as Disney's Lilo and Stitch, which actually sold more tickets. However, because the bulk of those tickets were for children and at half price, Minority Report was able to claim the #1 spot at the box office.
Oh, wow. Okay. So they got him on the matinee kid.
Got on the kid, but I thought you were going to say they had IMAX or something locked up.
Yeah.
They blocked Lilo and Stitch out of the wide
I didn't even think
screens.
about that with a kid's movie. If it's the kid's price ticket and you're going, at a matinee,
Well, that just makes movies like Super Mario Brothers, the new one, more impressive. Because
you think about
children's tickets are half price.
There's a lot of tickets that went into that billion whatever.
Wow.
Probably not AMC. They're probably
AMC's
$1 cheaper.
AMC's
Get wrecked.
He's got 2 feet and a butt, right? That's full price.
Looks like an adult to me.
And that's just airline pricing at that point.
That kid's just short. It's no.
All right. So, let's get into spectacle. And I still have a couple things here and there.
Sure. Pepper 'em in.
Pepper 'em in.
Put a little pepper on it.
Seasoning.
Spectacle. I am curious. We've already talked about some poor CGI choices. We can harp on it more if we really want to.
Yeah.
However, I'm curious at what your thoughts are for some of the other things that aren't CGI.
Yeah. So I want to talk about the CGI.
Thanks, Steven.
Kidding.
I think the Lexus plant action scene where he's getting a car built around
Attack
him.
of the Clones.
Okay. Yeah, I guess.
Same year release.
Same year released. And
Really?
George Lucas and Steven Spielberg are friends.
You know they're hanging out.
Oh, yeah.
They talked about these sequences.
So actually, I kind of want to put them in a big factory where they're making droids.
Steven leans forward. You going to use that? I'm going to use that. I'm going to do that.
I'll do that.
What? No, I said it was first. I don't want to give you another noogie, okay, George? I've done it too many times. Oh, I'm sorry, Steven. No, the camera work in that that scene, like where it's panning over to Colin Farrell
they do, like,
underneath
the big
him, and it's like coming
swoop
through
under
the
him.
cars.
Yeah,
the
like,
swoops.
that's a good camera
A lot of that
shot.
stuff was like I was impressed this time. Of like I don't remember it being this like wild. I thought it was
There's a really
pretty
good one shot when Colin Farrell's character is confronting Lamar.
That's a really good.
There's a good one shot in there.
Stop stealing my.
There's
point.
also a really good like the overhead shot in the slums or whatever. That big one shot there where they go from like
really
room to
cool.
room, and it's like the
Oh, the little spiders are going around.
yeah. Like when it's just above and it comes back down, and like that. That's a really good
I've
one
mentioned
too.
multiple times in previous episodes about how give us some top down perspective on this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And that they did it, and I didn't even think about that. But that was good.
That was good. Yeah.
So it's funny too because I remember. It's really weird. Like you remember these things as they were happening, and like the second it started, I was like, "Oh, I remember this. This was so cool." And it really was still very cool.
Yeah.
So I'm going to bring up. I guess we'll call it spectacle. Why not? I think the movie was shot in the wrong location.
Washington D.C.
Yeah, by setting it in D.C., I think they harmed themselves because they don't really use landmarks of D.C. in the film.
Right.
You really only see the monument one time.
It could have been
Once,
any
yeah.
city. This could have been Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah.
For all we know, right?
Yeah, it does
Probably
feel
a
like
better place to do.
I think
crime
if they
rate
had
stuff
gone
anyways.
Yeah.
like New York here, it probably would have identified better with international viewers, right?
Probably.
Because you could have connected it to visible things, right? You could have had those
Landmarks
weird
and-
sideways roadways going down the big skyscrapers.
I wonder if they did it because like RoboCop is set in like Chicago, Detroit, like whatever.
Good try.
Same difference. I'm just
Completely different state.
Basically the
kidding. Everyone
same
from like
city.
Chicago's like Anyway, like what I'm saying is
pizza's like the exact same as Chicago
same
pizza.
thing. It's all cheese and sauce. No, like no one's ever done like anything like this in DC. So I wonder if it was like
They're trying to be different.
They're-
Well, it's
yeah.
also it's the seat of federal power,
Right.
right? So there's something going on there.
Well, I wonder too if
well-
like maybe the original short story was set in DC.
Maybe.
I don't know.
I don't.
So
probably. I don't know.
So the thing that like because it was set in DC, I know as a person that there is really not that very many tall buildings in DC.
yeah, it's a very short area.
So whenever they have like the kind of jetpack fight, I'm just
Yeah.
like, there's like really no risk here. They're like in the back of an alleyway with a 4-story building.
Yeah, I mean, I fell off a 4-story
break a
building
leg.
last week. I'm
Yeah,
fine.
No, I
break
mean,
a leg,
but
yeah.
like it didn't feel like there was any danger.
It's not the Burj Khalifa, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
if you have a jetpack fight down the canyons of 2054's Big Apple,
Yeah,
where we've got
right.
300-story skyscrapers everywhere.
Then it feels you're like,
Right.
ooh, this is kind of like
can't even
there's
see
some
the
edge
road.
here.
Yeah.
Where just because it was so based in reality, just in this weird back alleyway that's all physical set, it was just kind of like, all right. I mean, he's like barely kicking these guys, and they just don't know how to control their jetpacks, and
yeah,
like
they're just bad at being a cop. Like, what the heck is going on here?
I don't know.
guys?
Like that really it takes me out because it doesn't feel like it's on tone with the rest of the film.
Okay.
I don't know. That's
Now, I will say the set design around the temple
yeah.
was really good.
Yeah, like the precinct or whatever that they're in.
Yeah, like
is
the
quite
actual
good.
like it had some weird hallways where it's just like, well, these are really like Art Deco concrete.
I don't know, but that just means that it was
odd
built
passageways.
into that kind
Maybe
of.
so, yeah.
Yeah.
But like, I did think that styling was good of the precinct, and especially like the way they costumed the precogs and kind of like their whole
Yeah.
like bathtub setup.
Yeah.
I think they did a good job with that. That felt very alien and sci-fi.
And all of the little laser cut acrylic memory discs that they use.
That they
those
like
were
pull
fun.
out.
Oh,
Yeah, those
yeah.
are cool.
Well, and I do like the elephant in the room, right? The gloves and the screen that he interacts.
Oh, that was
like,
fun.
Like
Oh, no,
I remember
it's
seeing that in
good.
theater and being like, "Whoa!" Can you imagine, man? It's like so. I still no, I wasn't. That would have been even cooler. No, I think that idea though is still fairly well executed to illustrate what he's doing. Is he's like scrubbing through the video and stuff.
Well, and that's the kind of concept that like every designer for the last 20 to 30 years has been like, this will be like, I'm
Right.
going to make this be the future. This is what I want the future.
Yeah.
to
Well,
look
because I'm
like.
trying to think of like before Minority Report, I don't remember seeing anything similar to the Iron Man. The
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
you've
not-
seen
not
it
to
since
that level.
but before it, I don't recall any other like visual interface like that on like a
maybe
screen.
in the Matrix, one of the other movies. Maybe I don't know. I've only seen Reloaded and Revolution.
The Matrix
once.
is honestly kind of low tech.
It is. It's very analog.
Yeah.
So one of the CGI pieces that I actually did like was a little spider drone
spiders
thing.
were good.
Those are really cool.
Those are well done.
And for the scene where Anderton is holding his breath in the bathtub, Steven Spielberg wanted to use those bubbles, or basically wanted to create those bubbles with CGI. And Tom Cruise actually learned how to do that himself to where he could control the size of them.
Breathing a bubble underwater?
Yeah, I don't know.
He trained for
that's what's in the trivia
for this?
Tom Cruise is like,
wait, you never blow bubbles with your chocolate milk,
You just
Tom?
open up your mouth.
every time they're at craft services, he's got the chocolate milk. Just I'm training. I'm method. Leave me alone.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's so weird.
I'm just reading off the trivia.
Yeah, that's interesting though. That there was an argument on set of Steven Spielberg. We'll do a CG bubble. No, Steven, I can do
I
the
can
bubble.
blow bubbles underwater.
And someone in the background, he's a hero.
Can you imagine the conversation? You'd be like, no, dude, Steven, calm down. I can just blow a bubble. Oh yeah, we could do that.
Somebody was like, he does his own stunts. Oh my god.
I mean, this was peak kind of crazy Tom.
Yeah.
Around here. Well, maybe right
Close
before
to
it. Yeah,
This
right
is
before it.
ramping up to
So
it.
this
Yeah.
is he's like, I can blow my own bubbles.
He's he accelerates I could be on the outside of my own building.
He grabs he grabs his little thing of chalky milk and just blows bubbles through the straw.
He blows a single one with his nose. Bloop. See, like that.
But I did like that whole sequence with the spiders going through the building.
Yeah,
And you also saw from the other tenants' perspective of just how normal this was.
Right.
It
They
barely,
just go right back to
barely
arguing.
interrupts their daily routines. Right. As dude sitting on the crapper, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, and with the jetpack flight scene that you guys don't like that much that I like, the reason I think I like it is because they work in those Spielbergian kind of goofs every now and then,
Comedic
where they're
weirdness,
trying to
yeah.
bust through the ceiling and the
Oh,
whole
yeah.
family's at the table okay, what is this? They don't even get up and run from the table, and you're like, what? And then they come flying through.
And
I like
that
that.
part's fine. It's
Yeah.
just the actual wire work that they did for the jetpacks just doesn't feel
It's the exexecution.
correct.
rough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do want to give a shout out to the scene where he drops his eyes and they're rolling down, and he's running after him, and one goes down the grate. You're like, oh, and he catches it. And you're like, okay,
Yeah.
because at that point you're still like, he could put these back in, maybe. Now you're like, nope, there's no way.
There's too much dirt and grime.
I
on
know
them.
you're stuck with those eyes now, guy.
Mr. Yamamoto or whatever. Yakimoto.
Yeah. Oh man. All right. So let's move on to performance.
Well, let's touch a little on the bad CG a little more. Okay.
Okay. Sure.
Just the only thing I was gonna say is the cars on the side of the buildings.
I think that's fine.
It's
didn't-
not
it
as
didn't
good as
bother
I
me.
remember
worst.
it. That's the problem. Is my
Yeah.
memory of it, again, recommending it to people, I would have been like, oh yeah, there's this cool scene where the cars, and it gets to that, and I'm like,
Well,
this looked cooler in my brain.
What's funny is seeing that, and then what made me think of was the sequence in the tunnel from iRobot.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, that scene gets bagged on for bad CGI.
CGI, yeah.
It's still a way better scene. There's way better stuff going on in that sequence.
So the thing that always sticks out to me, or that's really stuck out to me, was the first scene with the two little wooden balls, and they just do they cut them out of the cube, and I'm like, oh no!
Oh
dude,
yeah, where it's going around.
Again, I was also
Yeah.
over here watching this with Andrew, and that's the and I just woof
Yeah.
boy, we are not off on the right foot here.
No, that was definitely a weird, weak start when it comes to we're going to put our special effects out front. What are you going to show? This. Okay.
This is what
It's
you
a
want to
choice.
lead with.
That's a choice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Surely you've got something.
All right, we can move on to performance.
Yeah. So I mean, I thought Tom Cruise did really, really well.
Yeah.
I don't think it's definitely his best.
It's definitely
performance that
not
he's
his
done.
strongest.
Yeah.
But it's a competent job.
Yeah. It feels a little like he's very broody.
Well, we haven't really seen a drug addict Tom Cruise in a lot of movies.
And we
Yeah.
don't really explore that very hard. We don't really see the effects.
Yeah. We
of
just
it.
know
Right.
that he does drugs.
Yeah, it's very surface level. They really didn't explore Yeah, maybe because again, Tom Cruise was at the height of his weirdness at this time. Steven may have been like, let's rewrite this. He's too weird in real life. We can't get into this.
He's gonna actually method act drugs.
He won't get off that couch. He won't get off that couch. Like, we can't. Yeah.
Remove all the couches from the studio.
It's weird, right? Because when you look at the film, in a lot of ways, Tom is almost kind of, I don't want to call him the weakest link, but he's just, there's so much better stuff happening around him.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Colin Farrell is killing it. Samantha Morton is killing it.
And my thing with Colin Farrell was like, when I saw this in theater, I thought he was the bad guy for sure, just because Colin Farrell
he's
just played that type of character so much. You know, like you're like, oh, that guy.
Because he was in Gattaca, wasn't he?
Yes.
Yeah,
I think and he was in a bunch of stuff in this era where he played like the heel in like a few movies like back to back. I want to say so. Like when I saw him, I was like, that guy's got to be definitely the heel.
Well, and they do a good job of setting him up to be viewed that way in terms of like he's kind of butting heads with John Anderton,
right? Yeah,
and like it's like, oh, he's gonna shut us down.
Well, like then Anderton's got that cocky attitude. It was like, I'll tell you about the authority. You have none here, and he's like, well, actually.
I've got
reverse, Uno reverse.
I love in movies how they always whip out I've got a warrant. And it's like, dude, you like crumple that up and let your dog chew on it for me? Like, can we just give me a good sheet of paper here?
Well,
nice press.
Like Tom Cruise like opens up, like he unfolds that warrant like 4 times.
Yeah. He's like still going. They cut to like 2 reaction shots and back. He's still like, it's going to be a minute. Flat.
I do my own stunts.
Yeah. I can open it. We can CG the letter opening, Tom. No, Steven. A big shout out too for Peter Stormare, who's always just the best weirdo in any movie.
He's the doctor, right?
Yeah. And that whole scene, like the way he acts, you're like, oh, what's he gonna do to this guy?
That scene is so goofy.
Well, so I love that scene too because from a story perspective, you have, it's like, oh, he's just like this weird quack doctor that removes eyes and replaces them or whatever, and then after Anderton's already completely drugged her, he's like, oh, I put you away, and Anderton's just like, oh no.
I know
what is going to happen?
Oh dear.
have I? But the thing is, there's no real payoff there either.
No, there's not. It's just kind of
just a goof
offhand.
Scene.
Yeah.
It's weird to me because it feels like that sequence is when the movie shifts from kind of it's okay to we got like some intense stuff going on here, but it's such a goofy sequence.
Oh, just especially whenever he has his eyes, replaced and he can't see, and then he goes to the refrigerator.
See, I didn't think that was goofy at all. I thought that was cool. I like that.
No. I don't think that's goofy, but it's that's kind of the turn.
It's definitely like that. That's to me like when the eyes. Yeah. When he has the different eyes. It's a different movie.
Yeah. Well, it's just like he like reaches into the fridge and it's the moldy sandwich and the moldy milk. Yeah. And it's like whatever. It's just kind of it's very gross. Like, there's a lot of gross outs in this film too, which is kind of odd.
Yeah, it's a really gross movie compared to like a lot of Steven Spielberg stuff.
The doctor's all like snotty or whatever.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and that's like those are real boogers. Like they've got to be. I'm like, man.
No, they CGI'd that.
Then you have. This is basically my last.
Stormare does his own stuff.
I do my own.
No, Steven, I can blow boogies. I promise.
Yeah, he's a hero.
So Lewis.
Come on, Andrew, hit it.
I'm trying.
Quit letting us interrupt you.
I'm trying. Lewis Smith, the lady who played Dr. Iris Heinemann.
Yeah.
Okay, she's just whack. Also, another sequence that's just out there.
Completely out there. So the scene with her where she kisses Tom Cruise was not scripted.
Love it.
Oh,
this lady took her shot.
Was just genuine.
Cruise is just like, ugh.
I mean, he plays it off really well.
Yeah. I mean, that lends itself to how weird she is.
She's just wacky. Again,
see, a lot of those scenes felt like kind of the Philip K. Dick-ish like stuff, I think, because some of his stories had like those vibes to
a bit,
But
like once you, again, put all this CGI plants like caressing her face or whatever. It's just
that was like a bridge too far.
It's really weird.
A couple of them's fine, but then they start caressing her face. I'm like, okay, like you could have just gone from the vines outside to seeing them move inside, and then her like squeezing one to watch it.
The bit where she squeezed it and then it like rips out or whatever. that was good. That was well done. Like the line is good.
It's the ones
the
that
other
are like,
stuff that's just like, why are we being so weird? Like, why is everyone so weird? This is only 30 years in the future. I'm gonna be alive for this. I'm gonna be walking around with some boomer old man. Like, why is everyone so weird?
Get off my lawn! All these targeted ads are just flashing at you.
I did like Max von Sydow as well.
Yeah, he did really good. His delivery. I mean, he's kind of similar characters in a lot of the movies he plays.
Yeah,
but it has a good menace to it. Right?
It does. But he also can he's one of those actors that can pull off that grandfatherly mentor,
kind of benevolent,
but
also be
the sinister
backstabber in the background.
Well, because he has such a good way to switch. To where he still has that guise of being very nice and kind, but it has that edge to it.
Yeah.
And he did a fantastic job with that, especially in the scene with Anderton's wife. Whenever she,
when the reveal happens,
for the press conference or whatever. Yeah.
And it's like, I don't remember. I never said that she drowned. And it's like, oh my.
Got him. Yeah.
We'll talk about this tomorrow.
I'll come over to the house.
I'll
no, you won't.
When he moves that chair out of the way, you're like, oh gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No more barriers here,
that was a good scene.
It was a good scene. But the one shot that Steven talked about earlier with Colin Farrell confronting Lamar about the where basically one of the aides or whatever kind of leaves the room, and then it's Colin Farrell, and the classic Spielberg oneer where he's kind of just moving up, then moves in, then moves back. It's really, really solid.
The camera just kind of moves in space there. Yeah.
Well, it helps him basically create new cuts essentially within the scene without actually having to actually cut.
Yeah, so a lot of Spielberg's stuff is on display there, but also Colin Farrell is also just in the middle of that scene making it work,
Yep.
Yeah, well, I mean, great actor, working with another great actor, and we're starting to see motivations put on the table here.
Yeah, because it does take a while for a lot of those motivations and stuff to really kind of develop into something that is interesting. Because up until that point, you just kind of think that Colin Farrell's character is just kind of a stick in the mud,
just a bureaucratic.
It's a hard something word I can't say here, but just a bureaucratic pain.
So let's move on to the score, done by John Williams.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. I feel like when we were watching it, I was like, there's some good stuff in here, but now I cannot remember any of it.
It's not really one of those scores that has
I think with a lot of I'll say harder sci-fi, and this is borderline hard sci-fi, that it's harder to make a really iconic score for it.
Right. It's not going to have the Indiana Jones theme recall of
because it's not it's not Hero's Journey.
No, it's not, and
I think it's almost film noir style.
It has
it has
definitely
some elements of it. Yeah.
When you listen to it in comparison to other John Williams scores, you have all of his hallmark kind of sound signatures and stuff in here, but it's definitely a different tone than a lot of what you think of as the stereotypical John Williams music. You know what I mean? It, like you're saying, there's no hero score. There's no trumpetous crescendo into the score. It's just kind of
classic Superman move.
And the one that we played over the spoiler wall break or the ad break, Anderton's Great Escape, that's a good track just because it really does have all of the John Williams horns and stuff.
It's a good action
strings
music, right?
But you can really hear that John Williams just kind of twinge.
This is a good little tempo to it. Tom Cruise can really run to this.
Yes. Yeah. Well, so this
he didn't do enough running in this movie.
He could have done more.
So Williams actually almost didn't get to do the soundtrack for this because he was working on Attack of the Clones at the same time.
Oh wow!
And
he should have taken a vacation.
He came into production substantially later.
What a terrible era in your
whoa!
career.
How dare you? The Attack of the Clones soundtrack, or honestly, all the Star Wars prequel soundtracks
John
are fantastic.
Williams is the highlight of the prequels because the prequels aren't very good.
I will not take prequel slander in here.
You better get ready for it, but
particularly for the music, man.
No, I'm not dissing the music. Again, it's like saying like you're a good hard worker, but this company just isn't going anywhere, right? Like,
but I will say that like. Yeah, for John Williams especially, I'm sure like when he looks on, these two movies, he probably thinks higher of his work with,
Star Wars.
Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, definitely.
Than this soundtrack. Yeah, the quality of movies aside, whatever. You know. But yeah, I think, I don't know. It's interesting to me that he was working on both these at the same time.
Well,
because
so
it's like he's bouncing between something that has iconic, scores and like those hero moments.
Well, so he didn't really start working on this until he was done with the score for Attack of the Clones.
So it's almost like a palate cleanser.
Yeah.
Afterwards.
So he came into production for Minority Report way late throughout the whole thing.
I got to say, like from John Williams' perspective, it may be too. It was like time to call John up to do another Indiana Jones. Time to call John up to do another Star Wars. And it's like, hey John, we got a fresh, new, different thing. Oh, thank God.
I'll take it.
Yeah. Like
whatever.
I don't care. Sign me up. I don't have to do franchise.
He feels
music.
like the kid between the two divorced parents, where he's got like Spielberg on one side and Lucas on the other. I need you for this. I need you for this.
So I mean, like him and Spielberg did a ton of stuff together in the aughts, just because he did War of the Worlds, then obviously Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Yep.
Then we had Tintin, but that's technically right at the turn into the 2010s.
And did Spielberg direct that one or produce it?
Yeah. No, I think he directed it.
Okay.
I'll double check.
Yeah, double check that.
But yeah, I mean, like the music's good. It's not, I think, definitely not one of Williams' most iconic, but you can definitely like really feel the energy for a lot of the scenes.
Yeah, no, I feel like a lot of the action scenes, especially, are punched up because of it.
And a lot
Spielberg directed.
He did. Okay. Cool.
And well, a lot of like the kind of like more quieter scenes are really well done, especially with the precogs and the scene where he is confronting the fake child killer.
Yeah.
That's a really good scene that has some good like undertones to it.
That whole scene has so much going for it. Honestly,
it does.
Like we have Tom Cruise with his emotional crux. We have Agatha just going off,
just
in the
going
background,
off,
just absolutely going off.
And even the guy playing the dirtbag.
Oh, he does a great job.
He does a good job. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's move on to plot.
The fake kid killer.
Yeah.
So let's start with that scene since we're on. Such a good scene. We're like,
but I have one question.
Oh, go for it. Yeah.
I want to know what's going on in this dude's life where he's like, kill me so my family can be compensated. Like, give me more of this future, but give me more of this world building. Like, right? Like, like build something up. Like, I made a deal. They'll donate my organ. Like, they're trying to sell my organs. Like, give me something. Come on.
Yeah.
Like context to it. But yeah, that scene
that's
always
kind of like the turning point of the film for me and it's obviously the turning point of the plot too, to where you really have like this emotional climax and you think that it's over and then you're like, he's like, but I was going to be compensated if you killed me. You're like, oh wait, what?
Yeah. Well, it definitely, because up until that point, the movie does a really good job of taking you on the same journey as Anderton, where you're like, why would he kill a dude he doesn't even know?
Yeah.
What possible reason?
Like what?
And it's right there in front of you.
And it's premeditated. So it's like, well, he's like, he has to get here, but like he hasn't even met the guy.
Yeah. Right. And then you see the pictures on the bed and you go, oh no, it's his boy.
Yeah.
And then like, the scene starts to unfold and like Agatha's like losing her mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely losing her mind, which I do like. The bit of the twist around that sequence, right, where they really focus on the man in the sunglasses, and then it's just a billboard outside.
It's just a billboard.
Like I honestly,
I thought it was Ben Affleck at first. Is that Ben Affleck?
I thought it was Matt Damon, but
well,
So
potato.
Yeah, same thing, really. It's just Boston.
I do also like the follow-up scene when they're investigating it, because that's also for me another turn where Colin Farrell all of a sudden became not a bad guy in my eyes.
He's just a good detective.
Where he's like, this is what we call an orgy of evidence. You know how many of these I saw when I was on Homicide? None. He's like, this is not what you would see.
This is not what it's like. Yeah.
And so it was like, oh wow,
this is what someone who doesn't work in this thinks this is what it looks like, and it never looks this way. Yeah.
Well, and then you have the follow-up scene to that whenever he is confronting Lamar, or Lamar is confronting him.
Yeah.
And,
such a good scene.
And he's like kind of going through all the stuff, and then Lamar's just like, you know what? I don't hear any sirens or anything breaking down the door because the precogs can't work right now. Bang.
And it happens perfectly timed too, because like you feel it coming, and you're like, get out of there, Colin Farrell.
Run away.
And he's like, you don't hear any signs because they don't work. And you're like, and then pow, and he like Colin Farrell's reaction to that scene too is great because it's like he's
Just
so
like absolute
stunned.
shock.
Yeah,
Well, they've lived for so many years now where you can't murder, right?
right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty fantastic. Now, I will say one of the, I'll say like twinges to kind of like how the precogs work whenever they're escaping the mall area, and she is basically using her ability to like give him hints of like, oh, drop the coins or grab the umbrella or whatever.
Stand behind the balloons.
Yeah, up until this point, the only thing that we know that they could see was just murders.
Right, like really emotional.
So how is she being able to do this unless like they just don't know that they can do other things because they don't treat them like humans?
Well, what they said, what the doctor said, the research, she said when they sleep, they see the murders and stuff. Like they thought they were dreaming and having nightmares. And it turns out that was real stuff. She never said they can't also see.
Yeah, exactly. Like there was never an explicit thing that said they could see the future
so
just
like
in general.
They're kept under so they can always. Like at their
Yeah,
most
they're always
relaxed
kept
state,
asleep.
they pick up the
Yeah.
worst
Yeah.
of it or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I honestly, I really enjoyed that sequence.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Just for like him working with her to like pay out, like, but like her like in the middle of the mall where he's like, every instinct says, I am Tom Cruise, I must run. She's wait,
Yeah.
wait,
Don't run.
Well, and the thing that I
Tom.
really I like about that whole like section of the film is Colin Farrell's character. He, they're just like, oh, we got to find her, and he's like, it doesn't matter. He already got her.
He's already escaped.
He's already escaped, and she's already in the vision. There's nothing we can do to stop that.
We know that they end up here, which means we're not catching them in this sequence. Yeah.
Yeah,
That was like a really cool, like, you're like, oh yeah, I guess there's no way for them to catch him because she's already got to the.
I kind of complained, right, that we didn't see him get out of things through skill. I wish we had gotten just to see sheer luck, where like he keeps getting just like not that like the car sequence, right, where he's in the factory, the car is being built around him, and he just gets to drive the car away. Well, like, give me some like pure luck in that moment, just serendipity, where like it keeps landing for him, and it's like, well, we know where he has to end up.
Yeah.
So the fact that he's getting lucky is almost irrelevant. It's just fate, basically.
Well, so that's kind of the thing too. Is whenever he goes from maybe like the office, or no, he goes from like the yoga place that he kind of jumps into from the car
which is
sequence.
hilarious.
Just wild. Then he's just at the garden lady's house, and then the next scene he's at the eye doctor.
Right.
The bits in between there, I don't like teleporting characters. I need to know the logistics to get there, because like you have your normal eyes, like they're going to be able to catch you.
Like in a world that's that camera intensive, where everything is scanning you, everything is recognizing
How did you get there?
Yeah, like it's so hard to move around. Like, so it would have been cool to see him like, drop into the sewers, or like because he's a cop, like he knows the ways to avoid.
Yeah,
he's a cop who's been going out to get drugs. Like he knows ways to drop off the
around.
radar. Yeah.
Well, I wonder how much of it was left on the cutting room floor for time. Maybe.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and they were just like, we got to get to point A to point B quicker.
Or maybe the bleach bypass just kind of destroyed that part of the film.
They were like, it was a white hallway. What were we thinking? It's unusable. It's just shapes moving around.
Just a dark outline running down a white blob.
I can't even tell what this is.
The other part that stuck out to me was, you guys live in a very like technologically advanced thing.
Yeah.
This dude is essentially on trial for murder, or on the run for murder that he hasn't committed yet, but doesn't matter. And then he can just use his credentials to just get back into.
Like that
was like a huge security flaw.
IT administration.
I know. They're just like, I'll get to it later. There's no way he's going to come back.
I don't know. Maybe it's a government job. Nobody cares.
Well, like maybe it should have been like he like takes a breath and he's like, let's see if this works. And then you see the pregnant lady from the opening scene just like look away from the monitor, and then she like hides the screen when it's like warning, Anderton's here, and she's like, hide it, that would have gone a long way to help that.
Because she pops up a couple of times, and it was like, well, let's have her like pay that off, and that would be a really good payoff bit where he's like, I got to get in, like, well, maybe like I know, hey, she like on the sly she takes breaks out this door, I just catch her there, and she's like, John, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
Like, look, I gotta get like, all right, but just this once, I never saw you. You know, like, give me one of those. That's 30 seconds.
He's trying to pull the eyeball up out of the grate, and it's not coming. He's going, and she goes, "What are you doing?" And he looks over, and she's like taking like
a smoke break.
Well, she's pregnant. Hopefully, she's not smoking.
But it's non-cancer. It's 2054. Non-cancer.
Yeah. It's one of those candy cigarettes.
All the addiction. All the addiction. None of the cancer.
Yeah. But then, so she's just looking at him. He just lets the eyeball go back down, and she lets him in through the side door.
Yeah, like that would be a great sequence, honestly.
Yeah. I feel like overall, though, we really are.
Like really good scenes.
Shameless plug to our Chat GPT bonus episode where we basically made up movies.
Absolutely.
Actually sound pretty good.
Yeah. We're pretty good at coming up with movie ideas. Hollywood, give us a call. Anyways. Actually, no, there's a strike going on. We can't be scabs. Let me walk that back.
Support the writers.
Yeah, support the writers. But then after that, give us a call. I feel like the plot, though, it does, to me, do a good job of, like I said, go from, out of the frying pan into the fryer, back and forth on some of those moments where, you have
there's no rest for
the ice bath scene, and then, he doesn't escape it because you have that hope of, well, maybe they won't find him, and then he's got to, let it scan his eye. He's like, oh, it hurts.
It's he's risking the blindness.
Right, and so I do like a lot of the escalation there, and then when he gets actually put in the halo and put in prison, you're like, what? That's it?
Well, I saw that and I was like, oh, this is metal. They're gonna let the bad guy get away with it. We're gonna so end dark. On this? Yep. And then it was like, well, okay, they're gonna dig him out. So I was like, where are we going?
Yep.
All right. Yeah. Which again, she just walks in with his credentials into the prison. Still got that eyeball. That eyeball's been kicking around, not in a freaking ice pack for a while. That thing is disgusting.
That is rank.
That's like 2-week-old shrimp. I bet is what it smells like. Yikes.
Oh, all right. So let's move on to entertainment.
Yeah.
Were you entertained?
I was pretty entertained.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, I was a lot higher on this movie
going into it
than coming out, but I wasn't completely there is still enough Spielberg wonders and cinematography moments that keep me involved. There's enough ideas put forth with the sci-fi tech and stuff that kept me engaged. Tom Cruise is pretty good. All the performances are good. Colin Farrell's great. So for me, I had no trouble finishing the movie or anything like that. It's not that I wasn't entertained. It just I remembered it being better than I think what the movie actually is. And that's probably just a lot of nostalgia,
Yeah, so I remember going, starting the movie, I was like, oh, yeah, I remember this. Yeah, I remember that. And, getting through, and then about halfway through, I'm like, oh, I remember this.
Yeah.
And I was really excited for the second half of the film because I really loved, the amount of tension and stuff that they can really insert into the story. But the stuff before it, which was very, Spielberg fun, was kind of
Well, and there's some ideas there that are half baked, his addiction stuff. They don't really.
It's just very surface level.
Get
it just
into
exists.
it.
Yeah. If we had gone very kind of noir detective throughout, right?
Yeah.
And still had that rationing tension in the second half, it could be a pretty cool movie.
Yeah.
I think for me, my favorite scene is probably still when the pieces all come together. He's confronting Crow or whatever, the fake child killer.
Yeah.
That sequence, not just because of how well the acting is in the sequence, but because it is placing all the pieces that we've been hinted at for a while now.
Before they give us a whole other thread to follow.
Right.
Yeah.
That whole sequence is quite good. I really enjoyed that. I think that had a good payoff.
Both the confrontation scenes of him with the fake child killer and Colin Farrell with Max von Sydow. I can't remember Lamar.
Yeah.
Lamar.
That scene. Both those confrontations are tense and they both play out really well.
I can't remember Colin Farrell's character's name at all.
He's Colin Farrell.
Dead dude.
Dead guy.
Danny Whitwer.
Danny.
Oh,
Danny Whitwer.
Danny.
I guess they do call him Whitwer.
The pipes are piping.
They start playing that after he gets shot.
But I think the movie's really fun, and I think it's definitely worth a watch.
Yeah, and I will say this: I enjoyed the interaction with not John Anderson with his wife, but his wife interacting with Danny.
Yeah.
Right? Where it's hey, you're divorced. It was really stress time. So you're going to be on my side against this guy. And she's like, I don't have any cream. So, I also don't have any sugar.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's like, oh, okay.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
like, she's like
salty.
on team here right now. Like, let's go, you know? I thought that was quite well done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like my overall take is like it's an entertaining movie.
Yeah.
It doesn't hold up like I thought it did in a lot of spots, but I still think there's enough bright spots between.
Definitely worth a rewatch every couple years.
Well, there's certainly some concepts on display here that if you're going to be familiar with, if you paid attention to sci-fi, cyberpunk for the last 40 years, 50 years at this point, if not longer. Right? I don't actually know when this was written, but it's probably written in the 60s. I assume.
I'll look it up real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would assume like the 60s.
Or like 59. I think it was 59. I think I did look it up. I think it was 59.
Okay.
But like you're going to be familiar with these concepts, and while not all of them are as well executed as they could be, there's a fair chunk that's well done. You just got to wade through to get there a little bit.
Well, and there's a really good the really heavy dystopian undertones of kind of like these precogs not being human and
being treated like just not poorly, but just subhuman.
Yeah.
It was written in 1956.
56, dang.
Yeah.
But yeah, those kind of like undertones for just society in general is really what sells a lot of like I'll say the vibe.
Right.
For
and
it.
I feel like we just need more of the vibe.
Yeah, we just need a little bit more world building.
Maybe a little less Spielbergism.
Yeah, Bergism.
Well, and
Spielbergism.
It's interesting because like when you think about like the score versus like the visuals, it's like Spielberg. It seemed like was really trying to do something kind of different visually with the unfortunate amount of bloom.
And then John Williams comes in and he's like, "We're horns, baby."
Yeah. How many French horns? All of them. Get them out of the closet. We're using them.
Dust them off. Let's go.
Yeah. And so it feels like almost like either they should have like let someone else direct it or someone else score it. It's like some of the pieces aren't quite gelling.
They don't all come together to hit you with as hard as they could.
But they some scenes they do. That's
do.
the problem. It's just it's not cohesive throughout, I guess.
Yeah. All right, so that does sound like we're kind of running down.
Yeah.
But before we go, we always have to talk about Patreon because that's what we're here for.
Well, that's what we're here for. The money. Give us the money.
We're only here for money. We're not here for reviews or content or having fun. No. You can give us $1 right now. And what does that dollar give you? It gives you access to all of our bonus content that we don't enjoy making at all.
We hate it. We hate it so much. But the money keeps coming in, so we gotta under contractual
We're just
rules.
Scrooge McDucking this, just jumping around in wads of dollar bills.
Oh man! Wow, we have really flipped this on its head here, huh?
But yeah, no. So we do have a pretty great spread of bonus episodes,
if you will,
that comes out at least once a month, or guaranteed once a month.
Yeah,
possibly more.
Sometimes more.
We got all sorts of stuff over there. You got bonus episodes, right? You got our freaking
movie commentaries.
Patreon. I was trying to think of a
polls.
bonus episode. The Presidential Fight Club always comes to mind, and I always struggle to think of another one because it's such a weird episode.
We've already mentioned ChatGPT
movies. That's a good one.
The big thing with the bonus episodes is they're different format from this. We're not necessarily just talking about movies. We just kind of get weird, get wild with it, have some fun.
We do have fun. And we also have the bonus commentaries.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well,
and then,
that's not what I was going to say.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Say your thing.
So what you can do right now, if you are not a Patreon subscriber, you can go on our main feed and look up our 15-minute previews that you can go and listen to.
Oh, yeah.
Try before you buy.
Yeah. And I think we have some really fun ones out there. We do actually have a lot of fun with them. And like the tier list, the President Fight Club is absolute nonsense.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like we also do have other things like movie commentaries that you can go watch along with us.
And we also have some Patreon picks polls where like every now and then we'll have a poll on there where you can pick between different movies that we'll review and do a full episode of that patrons get early access to. And then it eventually hits the main feed. So if you want to like influence what we're reviewing and what we're covering, you can do that by becoming a patron for just $1.
Yes, so we appreciate and love all of our patrons out there who help keep the lights on, pay hosting fees, let us do some crazy, wacky stuff on the sides. It's not all about the money. And if for you, it is all about the money, and you can't afford it, what we would love, if you can't spare the dollar, we'd love a review out there. Leave us a like, leave some comments out there.
Share us whenever we
post
Apple
media with your friends. Yeah, just get the word out there.
Yep. Yeah. Well, that does sound like all the time we have this week. So until next time, I'm Andrew.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Steven.
And every spoiler was intended.